Parliament has summoned Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i and his health counterpart Mutahi Kagwe over plans to introduce more punitive measures against those contravening the guidelines of COVID-19. National Assembly's Committee on Delegated Legislation says the fines proposed in the two bills before the House risk exploiting Kenyans at the expense of fighting this virus. Silas Apollo has the details.
A day after President Uhuru Kenyatta extended the nationwide curfew in the fight against the coronavirus, Parliament now wants Interior CS Fred Matiang'i and his health counterpart Mutahi Kagwe to explain allegations that a number of Kenyans have become victims of exploitation and police brutality. The National Assembly's Committee on Delegated Legislation say that a set of bills forwarded to Parliament by the two CSs for debate were punitive and risk exposing more Kenyans to abuse by the police. A letter addressed to the two CSs by the Clerk of the National Assembly, Michael Sialai, says the proposed Public Health Prevention, Control and Suppression of COVID-19 Rules 2020 and the Public Health COVID-19 Restriction of Movement of Persons and Related Measures Rule 2020 had questionable proposals. The two bills want those found guilty of failing to wear a face mask in public taken into forced quarantine at their own cost or fined 20,000 shillings. The bills argue that violating the guidelines set up by the government meant that one had come into close contact with the virus or people suspected of having the virus. But the Gladys Bosch-Olay-led committee says the proposals are vindictive and retrogressive and whose result will be more Kenyans being subjected to torture and punishment by the police. The government has already been accused of violating the rights and freedoms of Kenyans after police were accused of brutality in their attempts to enforce guidelines on the nationwide curfew. The Law Society of Kenya and other human rights organizations say scenes of police officers bungling Kenyans into crowded lorries, forcing violators into quarantine at their own cost, as well as beating up violators of curfew was unconstitutional.
If you are walking at night, you are a lawbreaker and you should be dealt with. Maybe the place to go is the quarantine within prisons, not quarantine within public health facilities.
But the government has defended its actions, arguing that the stringent measures are aimed at minimizing the spread of the virus and not for punishment, as President Uhuru Kenyatta insisted that the government will not hesitate to introduce more stringent measures. Silas Apollo, NTV.